You're tuned into Recovery TV, the voice of hope, with your host, John J. Tassoni Jr. Discussions and information on addiction and mental health issues. Here's your host, John J. Tassoni Jr., with today's guest.
Welcome to Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni. Pick up your Narcan, people. We need it. Everyone should have it. Keep it in your purse. Keep it in your car. If it's too warm, take it out of your car. But you need to get it. URI has it, CVS has it, and a lot of other pharmacies have it. My guest today is Kathy Andriozzi of the Tori Lynn Foundation. Those of you who don't know about the Tori Lynn Foundation, you're going to find out about the Tori Lynn Foundation. Kathy, welcome, and thank you for joining us today.
John, thanks so much for having me.
So tell us about your foundation.
The foundation was formed after 2003, when our life was changed forever by someone's choice. My daughter was making the short walk home from her school bus, and she was struck by an impaired driver. And at 12 years old, Tori was a middle school student. She was a world champion martial artist. She's a really good kid. But the thing that stood out about Tori the most to people was that she had this really big heart, and she believed in paying it forward. So when the crash happened, other than obviously the paramount issue of survival, one of the things that we wanted to do was we wanted to give back to the community that supported us. We lived in West Warwick at the time, and that community was incredible. You know, they held us, they did all sorts of things, and we developed this really great relationship. And, you know, as a parent, you want to fix things. And this was something I could not fix. My daughter, in a moment, went from someone who was active, who could sing and dance across the room, to someone who relied on 24/7 care from others. Tori was rendered quadriplegic and suffered a massive brain injury that left her in a minimally conscious state. But she still spoke with her eyes. And, you know, as her mom, when I looked into those eyes, I saw someone who was saying, we have to do more and we have to do better. And so her foundation started really just by us trying to pay back the community that supported us so much. And then it grew from there. I mean, we realized that the choices that we all make in life not only affect ourselves, but they affect so many other people, and it creates a ripple effect. And we took that momentum with Tori as our guide to bring the foundation to what it is today.
You know, there's been a lot of people that have sat in that seat, but nothing to the point where you have this huge void in your life. And I always say, when I talk to the kids too, when I go to the schools and talk to kids, the choices you make today affects your life for the rest of your life.
Yes.
And they don't realize what, and you just mentioned it about the ripple effect, and what someone's unconscionable decisions to get behind the wheel of a car when they're impaired, and you hit someone as your daughter, and you actually ruin a whole family's life. I mean, I don't get it sometimes. And the other thing I don't get is when you have someone who, not once, not twice, 3 times, 4 times, they don't learn a lesson. And that lesson is to be learned actually after the first one, but before the first one, to know not get behind the wheel when you're incarcerated, or you're not incarcerated, but impaired. It doesn't make any sense to me. And to ruin families. I mean, everyone knows now that, well, maybe they will after they watch this, but alcohol now has surpassed opioids. Because people are afraid to go and get opioids on the street because of the fentanyl. So now we're into the point where we're selling a lot more alcohol, a lot more people need treatment, detox from alcohol, And the DUIs, they're not getting any better.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we're filming this in July, after the 4th of July, and you look at the numbers from the 4th of July,
Right.
People don't learn.
Right.
They don't learn.
Yeah.
I mean, to be a mom and to be, you know, lose a loved one, it's just heartbreaking.
Well, thank you. And it does, right? Those choices. And we actually say the same thing. I say that the choices you make today can and will affect all of your tomorrows. I mean, you know, when I talk to kids, I ask them, like, you know, I don't know if you have a 5-year plan. I didn't necessarily have a 5-year plan, but it certainly didn't include becoming a 24/7 caregiver. Right? I mean, as parents, you're always there for your kids, whatever it is they
Right.
need.
Right.
I didn't think that it would require me to have like this medical education, you know, baptism by fire, you know, to be somebody who could change a G-tube. And I didn't even know what a G-tube was before. Your life can change in ways that are unfathomable,
In a
that you
heartbeat.
could never imagine. And the thing is, it really does affect so many other people. We heard from teachers in Tori's school who, there was a young woman who was a teacher who had 3 kids who said, my career was paramount. It was on my, you know, I was on a trajectory. I have 3 young children. Life as you know it can change in a moment. She left her teaching job to be home during those formidable years. Our karate instructor, his kids never rode a school bus from that day forward. You know, people, it affected people in so many different ways. I mentioned that my daughter was a martial artist. She used to travel across the country, and she had a lot of friends in different states. And there was a mom who reached out from Virginia who said, my daughter can't sleep at night. She needs to make a trip to Rhode Island to come see Tori. She just wants to see her friend. It affected people in lots of different ways.
To be honest, I give you a lot of credit. A lot of credit for speaking out, to carrying the torch of Tori, to go to the schools. I mean, you and I were partners at Smithfield High School, and, you know, when we did that night, you know, and I went home and I'm thinking to myself, you know, Smithfield, you have 22,000 residents, and 1 parent showed up. You know, when, as we talked about this, when the rest of the parents will show up, we'll be at a funeral home when it's too late. When it's too late.
Unfortunately, a lot of times we don't see ourselves. I mean, I hate to admit, but at one point in life, I was that mom who sat and read the paper and who got emotional and cried over the stories that I read in the paper, or who saw it on the news, not thinking that it could touch me. But a poor choice doesn't discriminate, right? It doesn't care who you are, what you do, where you go, how old you are. A poor choice affects everyone, and it doesn't just have to be a holiday. Obviously, my daughter's crash was 2:10 in the afternoon on a Wednesday.
Yeah, I want to talk about that when we come back, because I have to take a break. We'll be right back. Well, you're watching Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni. We'll be right back after these messages.
And now, back to Recovery TV with your host, John J. Tassoni Jr. Recovery TV is made possible by our supporting sponsors and our title sponsor, AdCare. Now, here's John and today's guest.
Welcome back to Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni. Kathy Andriozzi is in the house, and she runs the Tori Lynn Foundation. So, again, thank you for joining us today. It must be difficult with all the interviews that you do, to keep bringing it to the forefront.
It is draining, I will admit, because it doesn't matter how much time has passed.
Right.
When you talk about that day, when I talk about that day, I tell people I can still hear it, I can still see it, I can still feel it. Takes you back to that moment.
You know, you talked about, when we ended the last segment, that this happened at 2:10 in the afternoon. I cannot fathom that individual at 2:10 in the afternoon being so inebriated and to cause so much pain with you, your family, and others. It just 2:10 in the afternoon. I mean, it's just coming off the school bus. That poor girl. That poor girl. So how do you take something like that and turn it around to make a positive?
I've always been somebody who has to do things, you know, like, and as I said, like as a parent, you want to fix things. I couldn't, you know, my phrase all those years ago was all the king's horses and all the king's men.
Yeah.
And as incredible as Tori's recovery was for someone who wasn't expected to survive, we couldn't make her whole again. But knowing that I could do something, maybe do something, use my energy or use as an outlet my voice so that maybe other parents wouldn't have to know the same pain.
Yeah.
You know, and as I said, not a lot of people survive a drunk driver.
Yeah.
Not a crash like that. And Tori did. She wasn't able to talk about it, but I was. And so I did. You know, I always remind people that I don't believe anybody gets up in the morning and says, today's the day I destroy a life. Today's the day I destroy a family. But when they don't think through their choices.
Right.
That's what it does. So when I talk to people, I just try to remind them, this is as close as you want to come.
Right.
To a tragedy like this. You don't want to have to experience it for yourself to learn that lesson and turn it around. Hopefully the words or the emotion or the impression that you can leave is enough to make them think through those choices.
How old was Tori when this accident happened?
Tori was 12. She was 12 years old.
And we were just talking about her passing when she was how old?
And Tori passed away November 1st, 2022 at 32 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean,
20 years of...
Yes, yeah. Tori far exceeded any expectations for survival and for the ability to thrive in the condition that she was in. You know, minimally conscious, quadriplegic, didn't walk, talk, eat, 24/7 care.
You know, God works in strange ways. You know, for her to survive an accident like this and to be bedridden for 20 years, there's a reason for that. What that is, I don't know if we'll ever know. But I know I have to give you a lot of credit and your family a lot of credit for doing it for 20 years. You know, we have a young girl in Smithfield where we go visit every Christmas that we have the Christmas parade. And she's bedridden and she can't talk, and you know, I don't know the actual story behind that, but I can just imagine when I see her and now you're telling me about your daughter. You know, just a few weeks ago I went to see a friend in Tufts Hospital, and you know, when I left they had to pull the plug. You know, I can just imagine, you know, he's a friend, but still, it hurts. I mean, never mind a daughter or a son, and you have to go through something like that. And then you have to pick up the pieces, and you have to show how strong you are to carry the foundation forward.
You know, it was a life certainly filled with a lot of pain, sadness, and uncertainty, but I would be remiss if I didn't tell you, too, that there was a lot of joy. You know, there was. You know, you use the word hope, and that is what sustained us.
Right.
Because I fully believe that with life there's hope. With life there was hope for Tori. With life there's hope for people who struggle. There really is.
You know, I say that all the time. You know, obviously with my job and the calls that I get, at least I know I can put my best foot forward. And at night when I put my head on the pillow, you know, I can tell myself, you know, you did all you could do for this particular family.
Right.
You know, and now it's up to them to get the ball and move down the field.
Right.
You know, but what you do when you go out almost every night and talk about Tori, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I could do it. I mean, I do it, but it's not my family.
Right. Oh, I see. You know, I always tell people too that you don't know what you're capable of until
Right.
you're faced with it, right? And I also say, you know, maybe for selfish reasons. Obviously, a parent's worst nightmare is to lose their child.
Right.
But I believe that the second worst nightmare is for people to forget your child. And so I
Exactly.
get to say her name. I get to put her name on other people's lips. You know, I have had people call me, send me messages, emails, and say, when I was in high school, and now I'm a 24-year-old woman who's on to her career, and I can't tell you how many times I would use your daughter's name when I was trying to turn somebody around and have them make a good choice. And that gives you something back.
Yeah, it gives you strength and gives you hope that if you could save one, as we talk about,
Yeah.
you've done a great job.
Yeah. That one person in that auditorium might be the one person that really needed to hear it.
You know, previous to that, a couple of years prior to that, we did the same thing, and there was 5 parents out there.
Okay.
But you know what? The day after, I got a call from a parent, and I was able to help them get their son into treatment.
Yeah.
So that was a good day.
Yes,
That was
absolutely.
a good day. You know, when you have 1 out of 5, that's not too bad. I mean, the baseball players didn't think it was to be a good one, but I think it's a good one. But I want to talk a little bit more about the foundation when we come back from break.
Sure.
You're watching Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni. We'll be right back after these messages.
And now, back to Recovery TV with your host, John J. Tassoni Jr. Recovery TV is made possible by our supporting sponsors and our title sponsor, AdCare. Now, here's John and today's guest.
Welcome back to Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni. This is a tough one for me. Kathy Andriozzi is in the house for Tori Lynn Foundation. Thank you for joining us today. Tell us a little bit about the foundation.
Foundation. So the foundation is based on 4 words: choices, moments, courage, and hope. The idea that recognizing there's a choice in every moment, sustaining hope, finding courage to make a difference, which sustains hope for the future. At 12, Tori's favorite movie was Pay It Forward. I mean, believe me, she liked all the silly movies as well. But she would watch Pay It Forward over and over again. And so that really is like one of the tenets that we focus on. Actually, this past year, April 28th, was deemed Pay It Forward with Love from Tori Day in the state of Rhode Island, with the dome lit up. It was in conjunction with Global Pay It Forward Day. And that's what we try to do. You mentioned earlier a family that you visit with each year. And I met the family a few years after the crash that changed their life forever. And I would say for me, one of the most rewarding things that the foundation does is make those connections. We meet a lot of individuals and families in crisis, and using the journey that we took and the experiences and the things we learned along the way to try and make the path that they have to follow a little bit easier for them, and to give them connections. We also, with our Pay It Forward campaign, we try to foster that idea of giving in young kids so that, through their life, they can become these caring, thinking, outreaching adults.
Right.
One of the things we did recently was we had 3-year-olds decorate little lunch bags, and middle school children and elementary children filled them with toiletries. High school kids put lunches in them, and with adults we distributed them to organizations that serve the homeless.
Right.
We realize that all people are created equal, but we don't all have equity in our choices.
Right. And people have to, I want people to follow your website, because you have some innovative ideas coming up. And so I want to thank you for coming on today. I greatly appreciate it, and I'm always here if you want to have a conversation.
Awesome. John, thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for what you do.
Thank you. Next week we have Dr. Larkin, who is the new director of the Department of Health on. So we'll see you next week. If you see something, say something. Have a great week.